Going to continue with our public meeting now that we have finished with our closed session. And the first thing on the agenda is a salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Barzalato?
Here.
Councilmember Bash?
Here.
Councilmember Hader?
Here.
Councilmember Park?
Here.
Councilmember Stefanowicz?
Here.
Councilmember Zina?
Here.
Mayor Rustin?
Here. I'll entertain a motion to approve the following sets of minutes: the 2015 recess minutes, the 2016 reorganization meeting minutes, the January 5th work session, and the January 5th closed session.
So moved.
Second?
Here.
All in favor?
Aye.
Revisions to the agenda.
You're done?
Audience remarks for agenda items. Anybody care to speak of something that's on the agenda?
Johanna Gamble, 15 Revere. It's not really a remark on the agenda, but if you could please just turn your mics on, if they're not on, and speak into them, please, so that, because there are different levels of volume with various people. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Anybody else from the public care to speak? Agenda items? I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second? Second. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Barzalato?
Yes.
Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Councilmember Hader?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefanowicz?
Yes.
Councilmember Zina?
Yes.
Thank you. Committee reports. Dan, you have anything?
I do not.
Mark?
Yes, two things. I want to remind everyone that the Chamber of Commerce annual dinner is Wednesday, January 20th at the Clinton Inn. 6:30 it starts the cocktail, so hopefully we'll all be there. Okay. Second, the Recreation Board met for the first time last night, and there are some items, perhaps maybe they belong on the new business, but I'm going to go down anyway, just to tell everyone what the highlights were. The Tenafly softball group is asking that the mayor and council give permission to put a removable shed adjacent to the football shed over at the municipal field.
That would be on the dog leg in left field.
Yes, yes. So, Joel, I'll send you an email just so we can start the conversation, see if that makes sense.
I think the first you need to run that by Bob Colbert.
Yeah, we'll have
Right.
to discuss this all.
So the entire board voted unanimously, and Matt does support it. So, but I'll send you an email with those details. Okay. The Tenafly Lions Little League wanted to announce that they have professional coaching now going on, and they've had to increase their fees before because of it. But the parents apparently are extremely happy with it. It's going off quite successfully. The registration opened for recce's yesterday on Monday, and they have approximately 100 Tenafly residents registered already as of yesterday evening. The skate park came up, and they're asking if the borough would trim a lot of the greenery away from the skate park just to make it a much more open environment. And in conjunction with the fact that we're having a conversation about putting a camera there potentially, that might not be such a bad idea. This way it's open for the public and the police and adults to see.
Jewel, would you take a ride over there with Bob Colbert and Chief Chamberlain, and get a sense of what they should do? But I think that's an excellent idea.
Yeah. And the rec board was asking if it's possible for under the recreation umbrella to rent out borough space, specifically in the canvas room, for parties or things of that nature to raise money for the recreation department. So it's an open-ended question. Whether
I know that Carol and Matt are aware that the mechanics room really doesn't belong to rec.
agreed.
It belongs to the library. And they also brought up Sunnyside, which has issues with overuse.
Right.
So I think they ought to handle that on a case-by-case basis rather than, I don't think we should get into the leasing business. But we already rent space out for birthday parties or not.
So we do. So the answer to the question is it can be done.
It can be done, but, well,
On a case-by-case basis, agreed, right.
we already have a permit process for the canvas room.
Okay,
And I think either historically or traditionally, the only place that's actually been used for parties is Davis Johnson. McCandless, it's a different type of setting. We have book sales there, we have forums, discussions, and probably the closest we come to a party is when we utilize it as a rain venue for the welcome committee reception. So I think it's a major policy change because if we, the Davis Johnson is very active. Do you
Right.
want that at McKinney?
right, good
The
question.
decision has to be made.
Okay,
The question is, really the question is, they want to raise money. There is a policy that you cannot raise money on the borough, because we'll be interested to find out, because we as the Democrats might want to do fundraisers. And if that's allowed, we would like to take advantage of some facilities.
well, although I would,
That's a different category.
yeah, I would
That's
say
a
that.
different issue. With fundraising is one of the things that's not allowed on borough property.
Right, so keep in mind, right, let's separate political fundraising for a second from the softball, the baseball team wants to raise money to help, pay for uniforms is a very separate issue, and that's kind of what they're thinking of. Some venues where they can use to rent out for parties, however, they're related to the people that are on those teams.
And I understand that, but by law, you cannot say political is not allowed, this is allowed. Political is one of the main functions of fundraising. So if that's allowed,
But if we choose to change the,
That's a different part of
right,
the code. But the thing that we have to look at, and I think maybe if we give you a copy of the Davis Johnson rules and regulations.
Let's start with that.
They're very specific.
Yep.
Because the use of that facility is not clear.
understood.
And you have security, you have maintenance. So even if they're trying to raise funds, it's still going to cost money.
No, that's okay, this is more information than they had last night. Okay.
Nonprofits often think that they can get things for free.
Wait, but this is a government, the board wants to do it? Or
No,
council?
the board is asking on behalf of all the different co-sponsored sports.
Okay.
That it?
That's it.
Tony, you have anything?
Just to let you know that the fire department unfortunately had 2 serious house fires this past week and a half. And both families had it displaced.
Marcotte Lane,
Marcotte Lane,
house that's set way back.
house is set way back, almost
Marcotte
on
Lane,
the,
on,
Marcotte
set
Lane,
back by the golf course.
set back by the golf
And
course.
the other one was on.
The other one was on
Franklin Street,
Franklin,
across the street from the apartments.
across the street from the
That's all.
Okay, we had a mayor's breakfast
We
this
had a
morning.
mayor's breakfast this morning, and we had as speakers Gary Shaw,
governmental liaison
governmental liaison
with Cablevision.
with Cablevision.
We talked about
Talked about
the statewide franchising.
statewide franchising.
And also mentioned that
Also
Cablevision
mentioned
is in the
that
process
Cablevision is in the
of
process
being bought out,
of being
called
bought
a
out,
merger
called a
with a
merger
Dutch company,
with a
which
Dutch
probably
company.
won't impact the
Probably won't
services they
impact the
provide. Will
services
give them
they provide. Will
an
give them
ability to perhaps
ability to
better
perhaps
compete with the
better compete with
the
the
bigger companies,
bigger
Verizon and
companies.
AT&T. We also had the executive director of the League of Municipalities come and speak, as well as their number 1 attorney, and very educational, talked about a number of issues that were actually in the newspaper, in the Record today, this morning. Pension reform, COA, Atlantic City, casinos. There's a great deal of interest in whether or not there's going to be casinos allowed in North Jersey. It's probably going to get on the ballot in November. The question then becomes, will the referendum pass? And that's very questionable. So, but it was an interesting breakfast. Shami, you have anything?
The Board of Adjustment elected Jeff Grossman as their chair, and they had 1 variance application which they approved. So that's all I have.
Yes, the senior citizens met this Monday, and it was a very contested meeting, and basically they are adamant, and they're going to come with a proposal to the council for budget. They want a part-time, 20-hour senior citizen support person that has all the knowledge of helping the senior citizen with the Medicare, Medicaid, mortgages, and so on. And they will present that to you, Jewel, as trying to be putting it part of the budget. It's significant to the fact that it's going to be almost $36,000. And part of the conversation, I said, let's find out, like anything we do, the need for that person. Let's find out the needs and so. But there was a very heated conversation, and they decided to absolutely bring it up and put it in the budget.
Well, one of the things we have to keep in mind is there was a time where the borough and a lot of other communities performed those services, and they were officially transferred to the county.
If I may, at one of my clerk's luncheons, there was a presentation by the county, and they said if you want someone from the county to set up shop locally, to reach out, and depending on the need, they come weekly, monthly, daily. So the county has that service, and they're willing to provide like mobile services so people don't have to go to Hackensack, so they can make that type of
Yes, so the
I have a
conversation was that this person is gonna have to go and do outreach in the community, people that cannot come, and they might have to visit those people once a week and maybe twice a week, depending upon their needs, and help them. I would be very glad if somebody from the county or something like that can come and present the services. They said that they were very aware of the county services, and that might not be sufficient. So is it possible then for somebody from the county to come and present to the Senior Citizen Board of those type of services available?
They're the Director of Senior Services, Lorraine Giovanna.
Yeah, Lorraine Giovanna is the
She sometimes comes down here, and her second in command, I forget her name.
Because what you're describing is a social worker.
Well, that's,
You have to be very careful, especially when you're having them go into people's homes.
well, I'm surprised because the initial discussions I had with the group, we're talking about 1 or 2 afternoons a week, which would be about 8 hours.
It would
And
come
how
up
it
to
expanded to 20, that's
Yeah.
that's almost full.
That's almost full time.
Well,
Yeah, it's half that.
And I think that taking into account that these services were provided on a local basis until they were disbanded because they weren't being used, I think we need to start out slow, and once again, if 8 hours is insufficient, then you increase it the following year, but we don't start with 20.
That was my, but,
I know
Okay.
other people involved.
That's all.
Paul, you have anything?
The HPC met last Thursday, the 7th, and there was a new chair selected. Karen Noose will take over from David Wall, who is retiring the seat after 6.5 years. And I think a more urgent focus on the Oresco part will start
Well,
to
when you
make.
say he's not leaving the commission.
He is staying
he's
on the
just-
commission he
he's just
wanted. He is
moving-
retiring his seat as chair, giving it up.
Okay, yes, and I had a conversation with Karen today, and, I think we're in the process, as I had mentioned at our reorganization meeting, of forming that committee to deal with Oresco Park. So I'm hopefully that will get done sooner rather than later. Old business?
2 things on old business. Jewel, can you give us an update as to where we are with the communication problems with the police and fire radios?
I can give you that tomorrow.
Okay.
Quick update, we had a very good meeting, and the gentleman and his associate, the technical person from the Middlesex Regional Technical Communications Company, did come. We had a meeting in the police conference room in late December. We had all the representatives there from police, fire, TVAC, as well as Middlesex County. Each group had the opportunity to state what the issues were. There was good Q&A. There was discussion about overlap. We were actually very pleasantly surprised to find how much coordination was actually taking place behind the scenes with police and fire. So that calmed, I think, some of our concerns about overlap and duplication. And we did identify that there really are some areas where the two departments require different types of assistance and different types of technical support. So the gentleman who was the consultant, quite frankly, sent me an email around 6 o'clock. He wants to have a call tomorrow to talk about the report that they're preparing.
Okay. And one other thing in old business, and Jewel, I got your response to the query about the junior program for the fire department requesting it for 15 years of age. They are reporting to me that Harrington Park, Park Bridge, and Old Japan allow for 15 years of age for juniors. So they're asking if, it's under the same umbrella, how can they allow it and we can't allow it? So.
Okay, the response I gave you was from our insurance
Right.
commissioner. I'll touch base with her and see what they're doing differently. My understanding, just to be clear, it wasn't that, my understanding was that they couldn't be junior firefighters, that they were in a different category called cadets, and that the cadets had very, very limited restrictions as to what they could do and where they could go. And that from an insurance perspective, it really wasn't, it didn't justify the additional premium cost.
So you're saying that it can be used for 15-year-olds, can be serving as a cadet program?
Yes.
All right, I'll inquire with them.
Which is different than junior
Okay.
firefighter.
Okay. That's all for old business, thank you.
Okay, I have two also on old business if I can. I'm going to try to be brief. There are two. We had a Democratic meeting yesterday, and there were some issues brought up which need to be clarified here in front of everybody, so everybody understands. The first issue was the community center. There were questions about what do we do and how do we proceed about the community center. And I want everybody to be here to understand that what we are doing right now is looking at some community centers that are around here to understand how much it costs to do that, to build it, how much it's going to cost to run it, and present that. We're going to have a meeting with the entire town, an open meeting to present the facts to the town. We will not do any type of actions without those information being presented to the town, and then based on an open and public meeting, we're going to decide what are going to be the next steps. That's the first thing. The second thing, it was a newspaper article in the record regarding the Tenafly Nature Center, pretty much negative about the fact that they lost $670,000 on the new nature center that they were trying to build, and after that the comments were extremely negative in the people comments. Some of them said, well, they should be put in jail. The other one said, hey, listen, they lost all the capability of raising money. And the other people said, being a good steward of the nature means leave the nature alone, don't destroy it. The problem they were having here was that, okay, once they lost this capability of raising money, because the stewards are not going to put any more money that,
Max, this isn't old business.
No, it is.
This is not old business.
Yeah, it is. I'm going to bring out to the. So now, basically, got to the Pfister point, which is something that we are basically trying to work on, and they wanted to make sure that when we look at the Pfister point,
Who is they?
The people in the Democratic.
But that has no validity. This has nothing to do with the mayor and council.
No, because we in the council, we have now a committee that's going to be looking at the Pfister point, as the Pfister Pond, see if we need to do a racking.
Are you on that committee?
I'm sorry?
Are you on that committee?
No, it's going to be.
So let that committee handle it.
But we have to tell them exactly what the committee.
Who's we?
The council needs to clarify that.
Not at this point. This will can be discussed at a work session. This isn't.
Well, it's basically,
this
we're
is
not
inappropriate.
coming over here to compensate the nature center as a second best if, because the Tenafly Nature Center was not built. And
Thank you. Under new business, we have introductions of ordinances. Mark, you want to read the first one?
Sure.
Thank you.
I move to introduce and pass on first reading ordinances 16-01 and 16-02, and set the hearing for January 26, 2016, at 8:45 p.m. or as soon thereafter in the council chambers of the Tenafly Municipal Center.
Second.
Consent, please.
Ordinance number 16-01, an ordinance to amend Chapter 6 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Tenafly entitled Alcoholic Beverage Control, and more particularly amending Section 6-4 Regulation of Licenses. Ordinance number 16-02, bond ordinance supplementing Section 3F of bond ordinance number 14-08, finally adopted on April 29, 2014, as supplemented by bond ordinance number 15-02, finally adopted on February 24, 2015, providing for the construction of a new public works building by the Borough of Tenafly, and appropriating an additional $50,000 therefore, and by authorizing the issuance of an additional $47,500 in bonds or notes of the borough to finance the cost thereof. Councilmember Barzalato?
Yes.
Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayder?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefanowicz?
Yes.
Councilmember Zina?
Yes.
Thank you. Dan, can you read 1603, please?
I move to introduce and pass on first reading ordinance 16-03 and set hearing for February 9th, 2016 at 8 p.m. or as soon thereafter in the council chambers of Tenafly Municipal Center.
Second, please.
Second.
Okay, and ordinance number 1603, an ordinance to amend Chapter 35 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Tenafly entitled Land Development Regulations, and more particularly amending Section 35-801.3 zoning map. Councilmember Barzalato?
Yes.
Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayder?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefanowicz?
Yes.
Councilmember Zina?
Yes.
Thank you. Audience report?
New business?
Yes, I'm sorry.
I would like to be put on to the next work session to have a discussion about the conditions of the Stop and Shop, and where is the Borough of Tenafly and the Stop and Shop going to go down the road as far as improving the conditions of that whole facility.
Let me just let you know that that shopping center is scheduled for renovation starting at the beginning of March. The Stop and Shop people are going to renovate the entire exterior of the entire shopping center, and at the same time renovate the interior of their store. In fact, the store is scheduled, may actually be closed for about a month, probably sometime in April. They're redoing the parking lot. They're in the process of working with the police chief to get the commuters out of the parking lot. So I don't know if you go in there at 7:30 in the morning, the lot's got 100 cars in it, and there's nobody in the supermarket. They're all commuters. Of course, that does create a secondary issue, and that is where are those cars going to park? But we'll have to deal with it as it happens. One of the things that Stop and Shop has requested is they would like to see the borough put the old-fashioned streetlights that are similar to what we have downtown along the perimeter of, not in their parking lot, but along West Railroad Avenue and River Edge Road. And I know Bob Colbert is working on getting a cost estimate for that, and perhaps that will be part of our capital budget next year.
All right, so we don't need a work session item because it's going to be addressed in March, but I
Well-
sure hope they're going to take care of the exterior, especially the rear of that place, because it's a disaster.
I hope so.
Secondly, the Mayor and Council will be getting a letter of a request as well as a notification. As residents may or may not know, this year is Tenafly Fire Department's 125th anniversary. And we are scheduled to have a parade on October 9th. It'll be in the Borough of Tenafly. It will be in conjunction with the Northern Valley Firemen's Parade. But there'll be more coming to that. But I just wanted to let you know that that's on, they've set the date, and now they're
What's the date, Tom?
October the 9th.
And they'll be marching in Tenafly?
Yes, sir.
That's the Northern Valley Parade?
Correct.
So this is about a dozen towns.
Yeah, it's big. It's a nice,
It's
very
bigger than all
nice.
the equipment in Manhattan.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've spoken to Bill Connolly.
Good. All right.
That's great. That's an honor for our town.
And I just got a question. We received a letter from Mr. San Bruno concerning the brush and the trees at the swim club lot. I'm a little perplexed as to why a private contractor was doing all of that removal when our DPW could have easily done it.
Well, when you say easily, no, we couldn't easily do it. Otherwise, we would have. We didn't have the resources. We have several people out. We have an equipment issue, and it wasn't a significant expense, and we had money in the budget, and because time was a factor, that was the option that we did. We used private sources.
The good news is even Sam was satisfied with the job that he's
We always use a combination of public and private resources. That's never any different.
Well, so then, we probably should, we should put for a later date on a work session discussion as to the conditions of the DPW equipment and to the resources. Because if we certainly can't do that task, then we got some issues that we have to address.
Well, when Bob Coleman comes in for the budget, for his budget, we'll talk about it.
Okay?
Keep in mind, we're holding people to zero increases. It's not that we're unaware, but
Do we have a tree department?
yes.
Okay, and apparently
We have equipment.
they were busy that day.
We have equipment issues, as I said, and we have people who are on workers' comp. And plus, keep in mind, this was Christmas week, so you also have people on vacations as well. Our DPW people do not get to take significant vacation time from September through roughly the first week in December. So we have a lot of people out in the latter weeks of December because they're working on leaves.
And injury and workman's comp has really, I hate to use the term decimated
We have
his force,
several.
but it's really put a crimp in him because he's got to do recycling. The leaf, of course, the leaf pickup is done, but fortunately that's concerned. And I know I've had conversations with Bob, and unfortunately he's very short-staffed.
Yeah.
So the reason that my Christmas tree is in front of my house for 5 days is because of resources, right?
Correct.
So
I think
we
that-
should address it.
I think it's a good point. I don't know if that was urgent or not.
It was.
Well, we'll talk about it at,
We were directed to do it,
At
so
the
that made it
budget hearing.
urgent.
You were directed by.
okay, that's it for new business. Audience remarks for non-agenda items? Okay.
Peter, there's one gentleman.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was expecting a rush of people.
You're the rush.
Good evening. My name is Roger Jennings. I live at 75 Prospect Terrace, Tenafly. I'm also newly elected Board of Trustee on the Tennakill Swim Club. So you know my question is going to be about the community center and the rumors that we've been hearing. And my question to the council is basically, what is the time frame for this, and how involved will you allow the community to be in the decision-making of this?
Well,
That's why I answered that.
Basically, what the councilman said, although there's no time frame at this point.
Okay.
All right, the first step is the committee will be going out to look at other facilities to get a sense of what might happen here in Tenafly. There's no guarantee that anything's going to happen. At some point in time, I think we're all agreed that the community will be engaged in this discussion. It probably will take the form of a public meeting, but that hasn't been decided yet, and that's some time off.
Okay.
So if you're worried about the 2016 swim season,
I'm not worried.
I wouldn't worry about it.
I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, but also with that, though, in conjunction with that, there's going to be, is a community center even needed?
Right.
I mean, that's part of the whole umbrella.
Part of the
You know?
equation, whether, there's no guarantee that it's going to happen.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Okay, so under the mayor's remarks, we just have one proclamation, and I'll read it. It's about Arbor Day. Whereas the last Friday of April 29th, 2016, is designated as National Arbor Day, which is a day set aside to promote the planting of trees, tree conservancy, and appreciation of our environment. And whereas the Borough of Tenafly has promoted tree conservancy and planting for many years, and whereas trees in our community increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our borough, and whereas the Borough of Tenafly has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting practices, now therefore, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Tenafly do hereby proclaim April 29th, 2016 as Arbor Day, and urge all citizens to celebrate this day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And once again, I remind residents that we are going to be engaged in a plan to plant a significant number of trees in the spring. And if you would like a tree in front of your house, not on private property, but in our right-of-way, please let our DPW department know. They already have a list of people. The type of tree can be discussed, but there are only a certain type of trees that we are planting We want them to last, and we put a lot of value in our arborists, but we are willing to listen to what residents need. So if you're interested, let us know. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a pleasant and safe evening.
Yes, it is.